Good morning. Good morning. I bet you thought I wouldn't make this. Do you know what? I was absolutely convinced I wouldn't make it when my alarm went off this morning. I thought, man, this is way too early. But here we go. It's the second breakfast show. And to be honest with you, this is experimental. I'm just really doing it and seeing what happens, just logging on, seeing how many people jump on and have a look and enjoy this. What I think I'll do this morning is have a little look at some of the news that's floating about on the internet, and I'll probably share a couple of pages here and just talk about some of the stuff that's happening now, talk about some of the stuff that happened over the weekend. And again, yesterday, just reflecting on what the guys did in Southampton yesterday. And I looked at the size of the crowds when I look back, the crowd was actually a lot bigger than it seemed. So they did a really good job yesterday. I was chatting to one of the organisers last night, and he said a bottle of urine was thrown over the crowd. So again, massive failure of policing. And one of the things that I noticed when I was watching that demonstration yesterday was as soon as patriots started moving towards that bridge, which they had every right to do because they were getting attacked from the bridge. And this is something that's either a police failure or it's deliberate. There's nobody else to blame. Well, there's two people to blame for what happened when they threw that bottle of urine. Now think about that. Who was carrying that banner? Women and children. And those scumbags threw urine, a bottle of urine over women and children. So the patriots were quite right to react because the police had failed to protect them. And it was either deliberate or negligent. And again, if I was the lads in Southampton and I was liaising with the police about any future demos, I would be going with an extremely hard line with them and saying, look, this is totally unacceptable. And I think they should actually put a complaint into the whatever the equivalent of the police ombudsman is in the UK. What is it? The Independent Police Complaints Commission. It used to be. I don't know what it's called now, but I think they should be doing that. From what I saw, the speeches were fantastic. It was a really good vibe, and just well done to the lads in Southampton. And then you look at, it's a tale of two demos the weekend, isn't it? You look at a peaceful, family-orientated demo in Southampton, and then you look at a celebration of hate in Whitechapel, where you've got misogynistic sectarians coming out on the street, balaclavaed up in a very menacing way. And of course, they didn't do that on the day when we had 1 million people in London. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But the reality is, I'm sick, sore and tired. I'm going to try and actually pull this up. I've found this on X. Let's just see if I can get this on the screen, guys. And well, look at that. We've got 100 people. 3 minutes past 7 in the morning. That's because nobody's going to be watching GB News anymore. They're all going to be, or ITV or BBC, because you've got something better to watch now. You've got somebody that's coming on and telling the truth. Let's see if I can find this on X. Just bear with me, guys. Okay. Where am I? Here we go. Okay, this is from Danny Roscoe. So let's have a little listen to see. So these guys were from the event on Saturday. Let me just share the screen here. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'll make that a bit bigger actually, because even at the best of times, I can't see stuff early in the morning. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you guys to read and see what we're saying here. Okay, so let's listen to what these guys have got to say. So this is from Danny Roscoe. Muslims say this is about them gathering in Whitechapel. We're here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law. Read that again. We are here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law. You've got to understand, they believe this. They believe this. And I know it's early on a Monday morning and you're thinking, man, he's on this again. But this is extremely important. This is what we're facing. This is the danger that our country's facing. So let's listen to these guys.
is we're here to take over your country. You can't stop us.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're at Alta Bali Park. We're here to interview some people. So I've asked some questions, brother.
Yeah.
Alright. What message do you want to give to the far right people?
The message I want to give to the far right people is we're here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law, and yeah, that's it.
Alright, fair enough. And what does a community mean to you?
For me, community means everything. It means coming together, embracing one another, loving each other, showing each other support, and yeah, defending each other.
That's good answers. Alright, last question. Do you think the way everyone has gathered here as a community is the right way to protest?
100%. This is the right way to protest. You come here, you gather as a community, brotherhood, sisterhood, everything. You come here to defend what you care about the most, which is the people, the area.
Some deep answers right there.
We're here to take over your country. You can't stop us.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're at Alta Bali Park. We're here to
So there you have it, guys. Sorry to sort of break that to you on a Monday morning in that way, but that's what we're up against. We're up against people that absolutely 100% their only interest is taking over our country and creating a Sharia state. Now, there was hundreds of people that shared that man's views, at least in that one area on Saturday, and the police completely capitulated to them. And you had the worst of the worst there. You had communists, you had Islamists, you had the worst people that you could ever come across in terms of being negative and showing the worst side of what's happening in Britain at the minute. And yet there's hardly anything talked about. Everybody, they were selling balaclavas. And says, what was the phrase they used? Cover up to win the case or something. So they were saying, wear a balaclava in case there's criminality. And I honestly think, if anybody knows me, you basically know the way I think about freedom. And again, I think freedom of speech and freedom of assembly are massively important. But I think there could well be a case for actually banning face coverings in the UK, especially in crowds. But if you ban face coverings, then the burqa has to be banned with that. So I think there's a case for banning face coverings, no exemptions for religion. We need to make it extremely unpleasant for Islamists to live in this country. And the only way we can do it is legally, because any other way, there's going to be loads of good patriots going to prison. And we need to get the laws changed, because these scumbags need to be put back in their box and they need to be deported. I mean, they can't even speak proper English, to be honest with you. You know, they live in their little silos. They think that they're going to turn the UK into some sort of Sharia hellhole. Well, they're not going to. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And of doing good times produce weak men, and that's what's happened to British males, unfortunately. Partly it is, but also there has been a concerted psyop against everything patriotic. There's been a concerted psyop against everything that is good in the country since the 1960s. This has been going on. People think this is just Blair. This is so-called leftists and progressives since the 1960s. Roy Jenkins, go and look Roy Jenkins up in the Permissive Society. Look at the laws that he passed. Look at how morality was eroded. And again, I'm not going to hammer it, but you know, the laws on morality were absolutely destroyed by Roy Jenkins. And I'm not a moralist. I'm not coming here and moralizing. My opinion is we're all sinners. Every single one of us is messed up in life. That's not what this is about. But if immorality is legislated for, right, which it was in the 1960s, then that has a massive effect on the way society operates, and it affects all of us. And it makes you're basically legislating for sin. And that's what happened in the 1960s. And it's been like that ever since. There's been a downward spiral ever since. I don't know if you remember in the 1980s. And again, I don't want people to misunderstand me. I'm not talking about, you know, being like Mary Whitehouse. But in the 1980s, they very subtly changed the narrative in all the soap operas. You know, and that has caused a cancer in society. It's caused a cancer in society. I was watching a box set on I think it was Netflix yesterday, and first few episodes it was quite dramatic. I'm not going to tell you what it is because at the end of the day I don't want anybody to go and watch it just to be, you know, curious about it. But the first few episodes were great, and then the next thing, episode 4, I think it was, me and my wife were watching, and it was completely the most vile, disgusting blasphemy that I've ever seen. And the way the media hook you in, you know, they bait the line, but they hide the hook. So in other words, they draw you in, and then there's a sting in the tail. And that's just the way the media is. The media, honestly, the media in the UK is satanic. It's satanic. So much of its output is completely against everything that's good and everything that's godly. So anyway, a little bit of a rant there, but I'll not tell you what the show was on Netflix, but just be careful what you watch on Netflix, because it was just horrible. It was just Les, give me some time on this. Give me some time on this, mate. I am going to get to this morning. Honestly, if you knew how busy I was, you would give me I will find it, Les, because I do want to find out what you want to say, but to give me a bit of time to look for this. I mean, I think the thing is, in terms of what we've got to do when we look at things like that Islamist, we look at things like the communists coming out and saying that they're going to win. We've got to look at what the outcome of that will be, because this is a real threat. When I'm saying they're not going to do it, they could do it if we don't stand up. And every single person in the UK needs to stand up. I'm going to try and find this this communist girl. She might have disappeared off thing. I'm going to try and find this communist. Oh yeah, here's the thing. Okay, here's another one. Okay, so stand by for this. Here's another one. So let's have a little look at this one. So if Jeremy Corbyn, I mean, this was amazing yesterday. It was like Mother Teresa had won the presidential election in Ireland. Nothing could be further from the truth. This woman, she's one of them. She's a friend of Jeremy Corbyn. We know who the friends of Jeremy Corbyn were, don't we? Hamas and the IRA were friends. I'm not saying this woman's a terrorist. She's not. But Hamas and the IRA were friends of Jeremy Corbyn. So if this woman's a friend of Jeremy Corbyn, you can absolutely guarantee she's not a friend of ours. She's not a friend of Northern Ireland. She's not a friend of everything that's good in the world. And of course, look at the way look at the way she's portrayed. It's not lovely. Looks like a lovely little granny, you know. And of course, well, I'm just going to be very, very careful what I say. But what's happened in Ireland yesterday is a far left political voice. I'm trying to be as charitable as I possibly can. A far left political voice has been elected as president of Ireland. And we've seen the anti-Semitism in Ireland. We've seen the push by Republicans to destroy Northern Ireland yet again, trying to agitate for a border poll, which would absolutely destabilize Northern Ireland and create sectarian divisions. And that's what Republicans always do. And I'm not talking about normal Roman Catholics in Northern Ireland. I'm talking about hardcore Republican agitators. And this woman, I can guarantee you, she is not a friend of Northern Ireland. She is not a friend of what's good in Northern Ireland. She's an enemy. She is an enemy. She's not going to be a unifying force. She's going to be a divisive figure. And that's what we've got to understand. And there's Brett Murphy commenting on it. So it'll be more betrayal of the Irish people. How horrible. Absolutely, Brett. 100%. I must get Brett back on the channel again. So when the media covers it, though, of course, it was great. You know, they were saying, oh, this symbolic figure, she's going to be a warrior for peace and all this sort of nonsense. Of course, I haven't looked, but I can imagine what her ideas are when it comes to Jewish people, when it comes to so-called Zionism, which is basically every Jew that thinks Israel's a good idea and every non-Jew that thinks Israel's a good idea. I can imagine where she's going to come down on that side of the fence. The other guy, Higgins, the little the little cross between a hobbit and a leprechaun. He was little better. So what is going on in the Republic of Ireland? They're voting for far left agitators at every chance they get. There's something very, very deeply wrong in the psyche of voters in the Republic of Ireland. And when I look at the people that are out on the street protesting, where is their political voice? When I look at the people of Ireland who are standing up patriotically because they know that they're being invaded, where's their political voice? Let's get a look at some of these comments. Yep, so there she is. There she is. The new president of Ireland. Absolutely wonderful. Right. The IDF will be welcome to take care of Islam in the UK in the near future. In the future soon, to be honest. Easy work for the IDF. Well, do you know what? Yeah, I mean, the reality is we've got our own military. Our own military could do it if they were actually allowed to. Ghettos springing up in inner cities, rural areas close their eyes to the menacing threat of extremist Islamists invading Britain. What I've seen in the last few weeks, people were talking about civil war. It doesn't even look like there's going to be a civil war. It's looked like there's going to be a victory parade, to be honest with you. That's what it's looking like to me. Not a civil war, but a victory parade when it comes to the Islamists. Right, let's have a look at some more stuff on Twitter. Guys, come on, what's going on here with the one finger salute, guys? What is that? One finger salute, what's going on? Oh dear. That guy there, as far as I know, again, I haven't read this story, but that guy there is the son of Hamas. I think that's the son of Hamas. He's a Christian convert. He was his father, I think, was one of the founders of Hamas. So just the boys having a little bit of fun at the expense of Hamas. And look, here's the thing about all this, right? Here's the thing about all this. This guy was at the heart of Hamas. Like I say, his father was one of the commanders. His father's probably been vaporized by the IDF now, but his father was one of the commanders, and he changed. So the reality is, people can actually change. They can actually do something different with their lives and become proper, upstanding members of the world community. But it doesn't happen enough. And what we need to see, and I keep coming back to it, the only true answer is basically is a Christian revival. The only way that we're going to change this is a worldwide global Christian revival. And if you're looking at what's happening, a lot of people are very, 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 very nervous. Yeah, there he is, the Green Prince. You know, that is going to be. Do you know what's going to happen? Right, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now with that photograph. Right, all the Islamists, all the far leftists, all the Tommy haters, all the far rightists, all the the Jew hating far righties. They're going to clip that photograph, right? They're going to clip that photograph. They're going to take the son of Hamas out, and they're going to have Tommy and Abby doing the doing the one finger, the oneness ISIS salute, the sign that the blasphemous sign that says that Allah has no partners. That's what that's all about. It's about denying the Trinity. When people stick one finger in the air like that, and the Muslims, we're saying we don't believe in the Trinity. We don't believe in the God of the Bible. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. There's all these voices in the wilderness warning about this, and yet it seems like 80% of the British public are walking around with a blindfold on, and then those useful idiots that are jumping on and supporting these nutcases. Absolute, complete insanity. Seeing what else we've got here. We saw that one last night, didn't we? Let's listen to this. I don't know what this guy's talking about. I don't know who he is even. Ali Maraj. Obviously, he's the Muslim LBC correspondent. Let's have a look at what he's got to say.
To take me back. Who is going to be repatriated? Who is going to be repatriated? First generation, second generation, third generation? Who exactly? How are they going to be repatriated? I mean, are you going to send me back to Pakistan, even though I was born here because my parents came from there? If so, have you checked with the Pakistani government if they're going to take me back? Are you going to, how is this going to work? Who's going to pay? What are you going to pay? I'll tell you what, Nick Tenconi and maybe Katie Lamb. I don't know what Katie Lamb stands for here, but maybe she's in this too. If you want to send me to Pakistan, okay, I'll set up the Lahore Broadcasting Corporation, or I might set up leading Pakistan's conversation or leading Balochistan's conversation. I don't know yet. You want to turf me out of my own country, you're going to have to pay me. And you know why? To quote the L'Oreal phrase,
well, he's asking. This guy is obviously of Pakistani heritage. Seems quite educated. I'm sure he's not an extremist. I'm sure he's not one of those people like Tommy and Avi sticking one finger in the air, doing the Islamic salute with the son of Hamas. But here's the thing. I tell you who I do want to deport. I want to deport that lad that I showed earlier that was saying that he wants to take over our country and turn it into a Sharia hellhole. So it's all right for this guy to come on and be very patronized. I'm sure he's had a fantastic education, all the privileges that come with being a British citizen. And I'm sure he's a perfectly nice man. Well, who knows? But the reality is, here's the thing. People have to go that are here with ill intent. People have to go that came here illegally. So let's start there. Let's start with all the people that came here illegally. That's the starting point for this. Okay, you came here illegally, you can go. Simple as that. You're not welcome. You came here illegally, we don't want you here, you're going to go. That's the first one. Second one, if you're here with ill intent, if you're here and you want to create Sharia law in the UK, well, obviously it's the wrong place for you, because it's not going to happen without a civil war. We're not going to slip into a Sharia hellhole. So if you're an Islamist and you're in the country, you can go. So Ali Maraji, or whoever you are, I'm sure you're not going to be on the list to get deported unless you're an Islamist who's trying to destroy the UK. You know, if you're on the left of politics, we can't deport everybody who's an immigrant who's on the left of politics, right? But what we can do, what we absolutely can do, is round up all the people who are an absolute threat to this country, 3,000 people who've got the ability to make IEDs. We can round you up and we can get rid of you. We can round up the people on the terror watch list that aren't British citizens. We can get rid of you. We can round up all the people that have been involved in the systematic sexual abuse of white English girls and Sikh English girls. We can round them up and get rid of them. That's a done deal. And if anybody in those communities objects to that, I'd be very surprised, because we're getting rid of the very people that are making your communities that you say that you stand against. You stand against Islamists, no doubt, Ali. You stand against grooming gangs, no doubt. You stand against people who want to strap knives to their hands and bombs to their chests and attack Jewish people, or attack Christians, or attack people out for meals, or attack the parliament. I'm sure you want all of those people gone, as we do. So that's the starting point, Ali. And if that works, and we create peace and harmony in our country, then we don't have to worry about deporting anybody else, because what we want is a peaceful, harmonious country. But we're going to stop it becoming an Islamist hellhole. We're going to stop it slipping into civil war. But again, and here's the thing about all this: when you look at what's been happening politically in the last week, we're talking about votes. This is what counts, and this is where all of the political. I'm a member of Advance, as you know. And my wife used to laugh at me every time I said I'm in UKIP, she used to say, it doesn't matter, stop talking about yourself. But in other words, I'm politically active on the right. But what we need to do on the right of politics, we need to make sure we start winning elections. It's all right winning a few council seats. You know, Reform did great in the council. Great, that's fantastic. But we need to make sure when there's a by-election that we win. And the only way we're going to do that is by banging a lot of heads together before the next general election. I'm not about by-elections. I'm not about the next general election. We need to, bang a lot of heads together on the right and make sure that we can create something that is going to actually take power in this country. And I tell you what, I keep going back to the pledge, and I'm going to put it up on the screen yet again, because I haven't talked about this for ages, right? I haven't talked about the pledge for a long, long time. But I genuinely still believe that the pledge is one of the most important political projects in the UK. And of course, Restore is and Advances and Reform is and the right wing of the Conservative Party and the SDP and UKIP for that matter, and probably Britain First. All of those parties on the centre right that are not anti-Semitic, that are not against people because of the colour of the skin, those parties need to find a way of working together. And if it means that the smaller parties say, tell you what, we're not going to stand in any of this, we're not going to do anything to dilute, let the ego go. If you're on UKIP or Britain First, let the ego go, or the English Democrats, because those few hundred votes could make a difference. And let Advance, who's pushing probably 40,000 members now, Reform have to reform, and Reform aren't reforming. So something needs to happen with Reform. And again, the Conservative Party need to get a grip as well. But if you've got genuine right-wing candidates in your constituencies, and we know that they'd signed the pledge, then as the pledge, we could say, right, okay, here's the candidate that you've got to vote for, right? And there needs to be talking between all the political leaders and all the parties. There really does. There needs to be talking. There needs to be dialogue, because what we can't afford to have happen is another left-wing government. Now, however we stop that, if we in Advance get the head of steam that we need, then it will certainly put massive pressure on Reform to change. But will they have the ability to change? Will they have the flexibility? I don't think Farage will, because again, Farage is living in a bubble. For them to lose that by-election in Wales is an absolute disaster for Reform, because it shows they have not broken through with the Welsh working class. They didn't manage to mobilise that base. If anybody mobilises the British working class, if anybody managed to do that, the British white working class, I'm going to say it, if anybody actually manages to mobilise them, get their attention and get them voting, it will make a massive difference at any general election. And that's what needs to happen. It happened for Brexit. And also mobilise the Hindu, the Sikh, the black. I don't like talking about identity politics, but unfortunately, that's where we are. We've been pushed into this. But if people can capture their attention, then it changes everything. And that's what we need to do. We need to be in a situation where we literally capture people's attention. Okay. By the way, guys, if you could go into, I'm going to just grab, maybe get this up on screen because I want to show you. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Right. Okay. So what I want you to do, if you can, if you go into the comments, sorry, the description on the either one of these videos, and what we've got is we've got the Men of England in there, okay? Because what I really want people to do, I want people to go onto that Men of England link and download it with Amazon or iTunes. So actually buy the single. It's 99p. What we're trying to do, we're going to try and get this in the charts. I'd love to get it to number 1 for Remembrance Week. And I'm going to be talking to a few people in the movement and getting them to share it as well. So if you can just see, I know that's really faint. Let's see if I can make that full screen. Let me just put that up there like that. So there you go. Dive into the comments, and if you could dive on and buy the Men of England single. If you don't know what it is, go down and listen to it first. But it's one that it's been played in all the promotion stuff for the 13th of September. It was played on the 13th of September, and actually that many people knew it that people were singing along. So please go on and buy the Men of England single. Okay, so get rid of that. So yeah, there's a lot to play for. There's a heck of a lot to play for, and we've got to get these things right, and we've got to make sure that that we have the political answers. And again, if you haven't signed the pledge, I'll pop that back up there. If you haven't signed the pledge, please go onto thepledge.org.uk and sign up. I think we've got about, it's kind of stalled because obviously we all got really excited about Advance, and I'm still massively excited about Advance. I think politically that's the way to go. But the pledge is the ideology behind all this. And if we get enough people to sign that, if we get a million people signing the pledge, then, and I know most people that are watching these videos have signed the pledge already. But if you haven't, sign it. And if you have signed it, share it with some of your friends and say, look, we need to get behind this. The pledge is a very passive thing in some ways because we don't need to be bugging people every 2 minutes. I very rarely send emails out through the system. I'm going to start doing a few more. In fact, I might send the Men of England out through it, but I'm going to send a few more. But the pledge is there to hold politicians to account. But what that can do is bring this unity together that we need on the right. If everybody signed the pledge, we know where they all stand. And if they haven't signed it, well, then we'll let people know they haven't signed it. It's as simple as that. I mean, I'm not saying we can't tell people how to vote. We can do that. But what we can say is these people have signed the pledge. Thanks, Sharon. That's brilliant. So again, that you see, this is the sort of stuff that makes things work when people are actually getting, people say, what can I do? A lot of people can't go on demos for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of their jobs, because of illness, even because of money, because it's expensive to get to demos. I mean, I would have probably gone to Southampton this weekend, but there's just no way I can, afford the time away and the financial hit on going across to England as regularly. You just can't do it. It's just impossible to sustain. Yeah. Brilliant, Terry. That's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, we've got to keep pushing this out. So all of these things, all of these little things that we've done, they all make a difference. And I know a lot of people were really downhearted. I was talking to Paul last night. Paul was really downhearted about what happened at the weekend. But I'm not going to get downhearted because the good thing is we've got to keep pushing those videos out of Islamists saying they're coming to take over the country because they're serious, and it is a serious threat to the country. And the mainstream media are trying to hide it. The mainstream media are trying to dumb it down. Yeah, absolutely, Yvonne. I mean, Wendell, I sent Wendell a text last night. He did a great job. AY audits as well. They were absolutely fantastic. And I think, Craig and the guys that were organising, I think Craig did a fantastic job comparing. It was his first demo. And like I say, Craig helped me out on the 13th with his big, he carried a sound system, pretty much him and his mates on their shoulders, big, massive sound system. And we would not have been able to control that crowd at Blackfriars Bridge if it wasn't for Craig's sound system, because there was a real bottleneck there. Nobody was moving because the police were telling them to move. And when the police tell you to do anything, a lot of people don't do it because obviously we know what the police have been like. So the police have a massive lack of trust. So the police got in touch with me. I was at the start point of the rally. The police got in touch with me and said, can you go down and get the people moving down at Blackfriars? I got down there and thankfully bumped into Craig, and Craig had his sound system there. And then we did the same up at the other end of the march when again we were getting overwhelmed at the roundabout, and incidentally it didn't work at the top end of the march because it was completely impossible to control the crowd because they were coming from all directions and the roundabout was swamped. But again, if his sound system hadn't been there, we wouldn't have been able to communicate with people. So on Blackfriars Bridge it worked. At the top end of I can't remember the street that it was, Stamford Street, wasn't it? Top end of Stamford Street, it didn't work. But thanks for that, Craig. So, and again, he smashed it yesterday. So I think it's great seeing people come forward and take leadership roles in the movement. And do you know the thing about Craig is he's not doing it for ego. See, when you see him, there's a lot of people push themselves forward. It's ego. It's me, that sort of stuff. It's all about them. It's all about building their little empires. Craig wasn't like that. Craig was just coming forward and saying, there we go. I'm going to do this. I'm taking a stand for my kids, and I hope, you know, I hope he's grounded and he keeps that humility. And all of them. I mean, Lee as well. I don't know if Lee doesn't probably. I'm not going to. Lee doesn't push himself forward, but you know, he knows who he is, and yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's. Do you know what? That's the woman with a hat on. There was a woman with a hat on, and Nick was speaking, and she wanted to say something, and she actually jumped over the barriers. I don't know if you saw that, but we don't know what she wanted to say. So if that woman's about anywhere, let us know what you wanted to say, because you definitely had something to say. We know that. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, again, this is the problem. There was some apparent, and I don't know who they were, but apparently they were from some very far right organization turned up. And again, this is a problem, because we've constantly been battling to keep the real far right out of our movement for as long as I've been doing it. So what, 10 years? You know, we've constantly been pushing to keep these people out of the situation, out of the marches, sorry. And again, they turned up, and the problem is they're getting traction because people are getting scared and they're thinking we need to have a more a hard line approach, but you don't. What we're doing is working. The plans that we made in that meeting in, it was 2024, wasn't it? Yeah, that meeting in Fleet Street in 2024. The plans that we had and we have are going to work if everybody gets behind them, and if everybody, again, if all egos are put aside and everybody goes, this is what we're going to do, not what I'm going to do. It's not about, you know, I saw Nick yesterday saying, I'm your leader. No, Nick, you're not the leader. I'm sorry. You're the leader of UKIP. Okay, you're leader of a very, very small political party. You can't go to a demo and tell everybody you're their leader, because you're not. That's narcissism. I'm just going to call it out. Okay. The reality is there are many people in leadership positions, leadership roles in this movement. I've never heard Tommy say, I'm your leader, ever. Never heard him say it. And I've been following him since he started the EDL, right? He's never once said that he is our leader. So sorry, Nick, ego's got to go. And you need to learn that you've got to bring people with you. And again, you know, that's all I'm going to say on that one. You know, the reality is the only leader of any of us is God. Okay. And I don't think Nick's been promoted quite that high yet. Anyway, okay, Islam is not welcome here. Never had been, never will be. And yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. I just thought that is very, 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 very dangerous. Very dangerous. And I think, look, if people call me out when I do stuff wrong publicly, it's absolutely fine. I take it on the chin. And I think when somebody does something, you know, that I think is just a bit off, I'm gonna call it out. Yep, getting high on his own supply. I am your leader. Yeah, absolutely. Nick's a great activist, and he does a great job. And look, obviously, you know, if it wasn't for UKIP, there wouldn't have been the response from the Islamists on Saturday for the UKIP demo. So that was great, because they called that demo. Basically, the Islamists came out to protest against it, and we saw exactly what the Islamists were. So that is a massive tick in the box for UKIP doing that. But again, we've just got to be very careful what we say and how we say it, because we cannot afford to destabilize our movement. And again, if I see something wrong, I'll call it out. Okay, Tommy's been trying to keep the far right of our movement. Tommy has. One of the first acts Tommy did was burned the swastika with his black mates, right? So, and in terms of ideology, I am 100% aligned with Tommy Robinson. 100%. I think he's absolutely Absolutely 100%, you know, on the ball with that, with his ideology, and I've always believed that. And again, what's happening spiritually with Tommy, I think, is amazing. I showed it last night, but when you look at how God's obviously, um, obviously, God's doing something massive in Tommy's life, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and again, you know, look, do you know what? I agree with you 100%. I agree. I would agree with that 100%. Yam. I do like Nick in his way, but I do have issues with him. Huge ego, arrogant, and what he said about the pledge. Exactly. You know, but the reality is, he is going out there doing his thing, and I'm not criticizing him for that. But you can't turn around and say I'm your leader, because you're not. You know, think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying. If they're violent now, think about what they're going to be like when we try to. This is exactly it. Look at what's happening in America. What's going to happen if we win power? Okay, if we win, yeah. By the way, guys, jump into the comments there. It's not the comments. Jump in the description and download Where Are the Men of England. When we get power, and on about the right in general, advance. If reforms and right wing Tories or whatever that coming together is going to be, there needs to be a coming together, right? That's obviously going to happen. Yeah. Well, not obviously, but I think that's the most likely outcome. So when we have this coming together, restore, and bits of UKIP and other smaller parties. So when this coming together happens and we do win power, that is when the rubber's really going to hit the road, because the left are going to agitate, the Islamists are going to agitate, and there will be massive problems. And that's why I've been talking to different people about policy and so on and so forth. And one of the things I'm suggesting is that we raise a regiment of the British Army called the Home Defence Regiment, that is obviously controlled by the Ministry of Defence. And if we're in power, then we'll be in control of the MOD as well. And this regiment's sole purpose is home defence in Great Britain. Be different in Northern Ireland, because obviously Northern Ireland has a totally different set of circumstances, and there's different internal security measures in Northern Ireland. But the Home Defence Regiment would be the hub and would be the counterforce against any agitation or issues that are happening that the police can't cope with. So if there's mass rioting in an area where mass deportations have been taking place, then the police, backed up by the Home Defence Regiment, would come in and quell the rioting. Because what you can't have is anarchy on the streets. You can't have a minority of psychopathic, evil Islamists trying to take over our country, putting muscle on the streets in various areas and taking over those areas. You're better nipping it in the bud straight away, because this is what happened in Northern Ireland when we had the so-called no-go zones. And there was an army operation called Operation, I think it was Motorman, in the 1970s, and that had to go in. And to a greater or lesser extent, it did take power back to a certain extent, but it was very, very messy. You're better having those beefed up patrols before people get to that stage. But I think we could be across that line already. And but what we need is a military regiment that's under British Army control, under government control, that can, if it came to it, stand up against Islamists and far leftists who are basically intent on insurrection, and quell that violence. And I hate to say that, because that's not what England's about, but it's the best way of doing it. Because if you don't do it that way, you're going to end up with a civil war where you're going to have militias who are raised, who are not under anyone's control other than the narcissistic lunatics that raise the militias. And we saw this in the Balkans. We see this all over the world. So you're far better having it controlled centrally by the government. And if you've got a right-wing government that's in power, then you're in a situation where you can take the necessary action. But it's going to be messy. Whatever happens, do you know what? Whatever happens, we're going to be in a conflict. I'm convinced of that now. Whatever happens. And the best outcome is we have a right-wing government that is able to do what needs to be done in terms of deportations, and will have the courage to actually go into these areas, grab the people that need to be grabbed and get them out, and then quell any disturbances and insurrection that happens. And it's just going to be a constant process, and it's going to be extremely unpleasant, probably for about 5 years, until we actually totally get a grip on what's happening in the country. And it has to happen, because if it doesn't, there'll be a full-on civil war, which will be an absolute nightmare. So unfortunately, there is no way of avoiding conflict. It's just a question of what that conflict looks like. And I don't want to see any conflict in the country. Hopefully I'm wrong and we can do it peacefully. But the other way of avoiding civil war is just we capitulate and become an Islamic State. So that's what we're looking at. On that cheerful note, guys, let me know while I'm doing this, right? Because obviously I'm learning this. Do you know, you see, there you go. I would as well. I mean, I obviously I'm in Northern Ireland, so it's slightly different for me, right? But I've got the plan. I've costed it. I've worked out what the command and control structure would be, and how it would all work. You'd also have a surveillance element to it, which would be trained by special reconnaissance regiment people, so that you can actually get people into these areas, gathering intelligence on the wrong uns and on people that are causing problems. Because we are in that situation now. When you look at that, look at Aston, the threats from Aston, and actually, do you know what? I'm going to try and find this here, right? Because this really annoyed me yesterday. See if I can find this. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Oh, what's this guy's name? That's it, isn't it? Right, here we go. So let's have a look. There we go. May well be this guy blocked me. Okay. Right, I'm going to share this, okay? So let me just get this on the screen. So this fella here, Ahmed Yaqub. Now, without a shadow of doubt, this guy's an Islamist, okay? He was on talk radio yesterday saying that he doesn't want a two-state solution for Israel, okay? He wants a one-state solution. It wasn't yesterday, it was last week sometime when all this stuff was going on. So I don't know if we can find the actual clip of him talking. I think we can. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
And you want Palestine to exist. You want a two. Welcome, Ahmed.
Okay, so right, let me just get this full screen so you can see it.
Welcome, Ahmed Yaqub, who is also a lawyer. Welcome to the show, Ahmed.
Good evening, Samara. Thank you very much for having me.
This is right. This is a video of you talking about the goal of Zionism, how it was founded. I mean, you're acting like being Jewish is some sort of new world order. Ahmed, what did you mean by that? I mean, all I can see is an extremely anti-Semitic video.
No, it's got nothing to do with anti-Semitic, and it's nothing to do with it's nothing to do with being anti-Jewish. I have Jewish friends. And
you just said Jews are trying to take over the world.
I highly respect Judaism as a religion. Zionism is not a religion.
Zionism means that you want Israel to exist and you want Palestine to exist. You want a two-state solution.
I believe in a one-state solution where Muslims, Jews, and people of other faiths lived in peace and harmony.
Welcome, Ahmed Yaqub, who is also a lawyer. Welcome to the show, Ahmed.
Good evening, Samara. Thank you very much for having me.
This is right. This is a video of you talking about the goal of Zionism. How
So basically, that was Ahmed Yakub, and Ahmed Yakub. Actually, incidentally, Ahmed Yakub. Two of the guys that used to work in Ahmed, we when we were doing the Rape of Britain documentaries in Telford, we had surveillance on his offices because two of the guys that were working in his offices were persons of interest in the grooming situation. In fact, Charlie Khan featured in, I think it was episode 2 or episode 3. So he's a charmer, you know. He's friends in Telford. Let's just put it that way, okay? And he is basically, well, let's just say he is certainly one of the people that I would love to see on a deportation list. But GB News has one of his best mates on the show yesterday. The Talk TV have him on. Now, here's the thing about this, right? Putting aside what he believes or doesn't believe, you know, I know what I believe about him. He's certainly an Islamist. But putting aside what he believes or doesn't believe, right? He basically gets on Talk TV. You wouldn't see any of Tommy Robinson's associates on Talk TV. You wouldn't see me on Talk TV. They don't come and ask me to appear on the show. They don't come and ask, you know, Sargon of Akkad. They don't come and ask Paul Joseph Watson to be on the show. They don't come and ask anyone who's been doing right-wing activity for the past 10 years or 20 years or whatever onto the show. But they'll have Islamists on their shows who have quite clearly said they're not here to take part, they're here to take over. So I think we've got to be very, very aware that the cards are very much stacked against us. You know, they won't even have Ben Habib on their show anymore. They'll have Islamists on the show, but they won't have Ben Habib on the show. Ahmed Yakub said that he wanted a one-state solution, which goes before the Balfour Declaration. In other words, he wants the Ottoman Empire. It's the caliphate. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're looking for. Oh, craziness. Absolute craziness. He has friends in Telford. Love says it all. Well, nothing well said. Exactly. Look, I know who is working there. I know who they are. We've got all the information. We did all the research on them. We had people in his offices. So we know all about him and his pals. We know all about him and his pals. Oh, man. Yeah, exactly. Ben Habib's a threat to Farage, hence him not having on GB News. Oh, yes, the other good news from the weekend. I announced on Friday in Bangor in Northern Ireland, a little speech, that Ben Habib is going to be organising Advance UK in Northern Ireland. It went down extremely well. So hopefully there's going to be lots of new members coming up. I'm going to put the video up later on today. But yeah, that's another reason to celebrate. I think everything looks really grim. But one of the things that has encouraged me most about what's happening at the minute is everybody's talking about Christianity. And in deep ways. People aren't just talking about Christianity as a counter to Islam. People are talking about Christianity. Liam Tufts last night did an interview with Ricky Doolan. Absolutely magnificent. Masterful. And Ricky is 100% genuine lad. 100% enthusiastic. And if you get the chance, go onto Liam's channel and watch the interview with Ricky Doolan. I thought he did absolutely brilliantly yesterday. So there is movement, and the only way we're going to beat this is through faith. The only way you can fight a spiritual war is through spiritual means. And I know I keep harping on about it, but it's just the truth. We've tried everything else and it doesn't work. You know, we've tried everything else, it doesn't work. Yeah, we're the media now. No more gaslighting. Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, Ricky is a good guy. I'll try and get him on the show sometime this week because I think he was out in Israel with Tommy. So I'll try and get him on the show this week. Right, let's get back to having a look at what's happening. See if I can find some more stuff here for you. Wow. Wait, you see this one. Wait, you see this one. Let's drop this back in the channel. So this is Elon Musk has just tweeted this, right? Suicidal empathy is killing Western civilization. It's good to have empathy, but we cannot allow empathy to be abused to the point of extinction. And that should probably say our own extinction. But look at this. Swedish politician who fought for equality and open borders is beheaded in Congo. Zaida Catalan was a Swedish Green Party politician who believed in open borders. Now, that is a tragedy. That is an absolute tragedy for that woman and that woman's family. But this is what's coming down the road for the left. They don't realize that they are literally turkeys voting for Christmas. You can guarantee she was beheaded. There's an Islamist insurgency going on in the Congo. They beheaded scores of Christians a few weeks ago. And, it's absolutely disgusting. And this is what the left are doing. It is suicidal empathy and it's stupidity. Whereas that's what we need. That's what we need. We need the Crusader spirit. We absolutely need the Crusader spirit. Chainmail and St. George's crosses. That's what we need. But again, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, look at this. Look at this for black.
Enormous. I mean, it's one of the Mama people. I'm here today with Faisal by. Big day is the 20th. Guy no more people. I'm here today with Faisal by Saturday before the 25th. Big day is the 25th, which is next Saturday. We urge the local community, brothers, Barayo. It's going to be enormous. I mean, it's one of those kind of events in our lifetime where everyone's going to remember where they were. So Saturday, we have intel from police and various sources that up to 5,000 far-right hooligans, including UKIP, Reform, Tommy Robinson even. You can see the police presence today, just based on reports of 100 people turning up. So, Amra, we're not here for trouble, right? We're here to protect our community. So if they do come, we need to stand our ground, and we need to protect our community. We need to protect Whitechapel and Tower Hamlets and say, no, you're not getting a free pass here.
Yeah, definitely. I will be going to the meetings and the events and keeping you guys all updated, inshallah. This guy no more people. I'm here today with Faisal by Saturday.
Yeah, I wonder who that guy is. That guy's popping up or not now, the guy with the red hoodie on. Don't know if anyone knows his name, because he'd be one definitely to watch on social media to see what he's up to. But here's the thing. If the police did tell them that there was 5,000 people coming to Tower Hamlets and said that Tommy Robinson was going to be there. Tommy Robinson wasn't even in the country, right? And said that Reform were going to... Why would Reform be standing with UKIP? Who's been spreading this misinformation? And then, of course, what happens is it stirs up and winds up all the people in those areas. So interesting, very, very interesting, very, very sinister and very interesting. And here he is again. Here's this guy again. So if anybody knows this guy's name,
what's going on, my people? As you can see, I'm live and direct here with all the brothers behind me. It's the beginning of the turnout. What, a few hundred of the brothers? Everyone's ready. Here, not for violence or hate. They're here to stand ground on our own area, which is Tower Hamlets. What's going on?
Do you know what I find absolutely... We're going to end the stream in a couple of minutes. But what I find absolutely appalling about these people is they can't even speak English. They've had the privilege of going through the British education system, and yet they can't speak English. So they're obviously speaking their own tongue when they're not putting themselves in front of camera. They're not integrating, and they've got to go. I want them out. I just want these people out of our country. I don't want them here anymore. His name's Mohammed something. That narrows it down, Ginger Beard, to 50% of the population of Tower Hamlets. Oh, brilliant! That's good stuff. That's good stuff. They are such knuckleheads. But the problem is, listen, they're the ones that can mobilize and put thousands of people on the streets of a city. The problem that we've got in with the rest of the people of the UK is that we can't mobilize people in the numbers that they can, and it's a big problem. Yeah, that was a good one, mate. That was a good one. I love that. But yeah, okay, guys, listen, I know everybody's got to get work. I held everyone late from work last time because we went on until I think past 9 o'clock, I think it was. So again, join the pledge or sign the pledge, download the song, like and subscribe to every channel, share this. I'm going to try and do this every morning now. Hopefully it'll get a little bit more professional as time goes on. Because you see what I had to do, I got up at 6, right? And made the wife a cup of tea, had a cup of coffee, and came on. But I think I need to do a little bit more prep beforehand, so I'm not fumbling over my Twitter feeds and getting the videos up. So I'm probably gonna have to get up at 5:30 to do this now. But you know, and now you understand why all these breakfast TV hosts look really, really tired all the time, because you've got to go to bed at 10 o'clock to basically get up, and they're starting at 7 o'clock. Fair play to them, you know. I can't remember Richard. I can't remember if I said Richard, but it was lovely meeting you on the 13th. Listen, likewise. I mean, it was one of those ones. If you met me on the 13th, I was probably running around like an absolute madman, saying hello to everybody, and then running off and doing something different. So, but yes, thanks very much for that, Lily. I can't remember what happened on the 13th. Now it's that long ago, to be honest with you. But yeah, and the good thing is, that's one of the great things about the events is we get meeting everybody that we're chatting to on live streams, and it's really, really good. And it's really, you know, that's why, you know, events are really important. I know they're expensive. I know they're hard to get to. There's going to be one in May next year. It's going to be mega. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So guys, I'm going to shoot off and I'm going to go and do some stuff. I'm thinking this might be really making a rod for my own back, but I'm thinking of maybe doing a 7 o'clock live stream every day as well in the evening. So yeah, like I say, that narrows it down, James. When you talk about Muslims and the called Muhammad, it certainly narrows it down. Have a great day. Yep, thanks, will do. Yes, it was lucky to catch you. I said, thank you for all you do. Oh, yes. That would have been when I deputized Young Bob, because Young Bob was basically unlucky enough to be, it was like a press gang. It was like the old press gangs from the 1700s, where they used to, you know, get people drunk and make them go on a ship. Young Bob just happened to be walking past me. I grabbed hold of him and says, "Bob, you've been deputized. You're now a marshal," and gave him a steward's vest. That's right. That was down near where the disabled people were. Oh man, that was a busy day. Ricky Doolan will no longer call me by my YouTube name. He told me last night after laughing. Oh dear. Well, guys, listen, I am going to go because I've got to go and do some stuff. And so I'm thinking of doing 2 a day. I'll do the morning one and I'll do the evening one. Maybe, I don't know. See how it all goes. But so I'll be here again tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Let's keep building it. 400 people watching at this time in the morning. I think it's pretty cool. And I'll see you guys all soon.